YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after Saturday and Sunday's action of NFL Week 15. I'm here to give you my takeaways like we do every single Monday. This one, and I've said this before and it didn't work out, but this one's going to have to be quicker. We're going to go quick takeaways because we got a lot to get to. Mock draft, got to update that after the conference championships, and I want to predict scores to all the bowl games, at least the big ones, including the college football playoffs. So we got a lot to get here. Get to here at the Goat House, and I'm making it drag on even longer right now. Follow that Twitter. Do it. Must follow. Subscribe if you're new. Full NFL coverage. Even have some college football coverage coming. Off-season full NFL coverage. Check out that Sided app. Link down below for that. Our Patreon has weekly content, extra content, junior score predictions, bets of the week for NFL, college football. Updated playoff predictions. A lot more. There's a lot going on there. A lot of you showing your support. Appreciate you very much. Talk about a Saturday game. The Bills look dominant. This team looks really, really good right now. The Broncos were down to like their fifth corner, or maybe they had five corners. I don't know what it was exactly. I think they had five corners out throughout the year. So the Josh Allen should kind of torch these guys, and he did. That was great. He's looking fantastic. Look like an MVP. You know, the thing that stands out. A lot of these teams are showing why the run game is still so important. People are trying to devalue the running back position, but it's just not, it shouldn't be the case because running the ball is so important because you can manage the clock and you can do some damage just having an effective run game, but it also opens things up for your quarterback. It's just so easy to play defense, not so easy, but it's a lot easier to play defense when you know what's coming, what type of play. It's basically a guessing game out there. And the Bills, it's pretty easy to guess that they're going to throw the ball. The teams know it's coming, and Josh Allen and company are still beating up teams. So that's the most impressive part there. Will not having a big run game. I know Singletary ended up ripping one off at the end, but will that come back, to hurt them in the playoffs? I like this team. It's growing a lot. Love the playbook. Love the play calling. Josh Allen's fantastic. Stephon Diggs looks like arguably the best receiver in football right now. He got hurt towards the end of this. It sounds like he's okay. So, they had me a little worried there. Defense is getting better each week. They continue to make plays. They get their hands on the ball. It's exactly what you need to pair with this offense. So I like where the Bills are heading right now. It's fantastic. They look like a legit contender in the AFC. So that is great. They win the division for the first time in several years. The first time since 2008, 2009, since the Patriots won the AFC East. So it's good to see. It's good to see some change there. Broncos, I'll be looking forward to them, what they do in the offseason. Looking forward to them next year. They're a team I had, playoff hopes for, but they got beat up. Before it even started, I kind of thought they may not make it there because of the Von Miller injury, but they're heading in the right track. They got promise for the future. But the Bills, excited about them. Dominant win on Saturday here. Another Saturday game, Panthers Packers, which was an interesting one because the Packers, the way this game started, it felt like the Packers were just going to destroy them. I mean, I thought they were kind of going to this game in Lambeau. Panthers are kind of struggling. Earlier in the year, they were a good offensive team. Now that's really, kind of disappeared almost. Teddy's not playing that good. So I thought they weren't going to be able to keep up with the Packers. But they had a shot in this game, and I look back to that fumble at the 1 or half-yard line, whatever it was, by Teddy. Bad moment for Teddy, but they really should just ran the ball to Mike Davis. Mike Davis, against this weak run defense, pretty strong dude, physical dude. I think he'll get in there. So they run the ball to Mike Davis there. We're going to be talking about, we can assume the Panthers could have won the game. I think the game probably went differently, though, but they had a better shot, and they could have won the game or tied the game at some point if they didn't blow that there, because remember the Packers got a good return as well. So that was the key moment in the game. The Packers, every team does it. It kind of drives me nuts when they get kind of conservative and they just run the ball. We're too worried about the clock, just score points, put the game away. Packers kind of get conservative, but they do it in a different way. They get these quick passes, just one-step drop. Rodgers throw off his back foot, usually a pretty accurate pass. Just a quick out, and it goes for no gain to a yard or two. Sometimes it works. Rodgers getting the ball out quick, and corners are playing too off the ball. But the Packers got carried away with it in this game when they got up, and that was their idea of getting conservative, I think. Panthers caught on, played a little tighter coverage then. If they did it, earlier in the game, that probably could have helped, but it's tough because Rodgers will beat you deep, so it's understandable. And the Packers were kind of just going 3 and out or 6 and out, sure. because they were doing that. And I almost prefer, and I hate when teams just run. I would almost prefer to get more runs in there because Aaron Jones is a hell of a back. I mean, Jamal Williams is a hell of a, I know he got hurt at one point, but he came out of the game at one point. But, I almost prefer just throw some runs in there because it was just so predictable at one point. It was odd, honestly. So that's kind of what allowed the Panthers to get back in the game, but also the pressure the Panthers were getting. I mean, I've been hyping up Brian Burns. The kid is a stud. He may lead the league in sacks one day. He's been fantastic. But really, the entire Panthers defense was getting pressure. They were collapsing the pocket. They were getting after Rodgers. They sacked him, 4 or 5 times. It's kind of odd. It's just weird because the Packers will go game after game against pretty good pass rushes, with not allowing, good pass rushers, sometimes not, but not allowing anybody to even, breathe on Aaron Rodgers. And that's a strong part of their offense. Not all of it, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, but big piece is the offensive line. But then they have these games where the Panthers, the Bucs, I guess, is understandable. Because that's a pretty good pass rush. They blitz pretty well, but they go cold sometimes as well. And that was the reason why the Packers got destroyed in the Bucs game. And then they kind of, all right, the Packers are figuring out, they haven't really played anybody like the Bucs, but here they go. They're figuring out they're back to normal, consistent blocking. And they have a game like this where the Panthers go cold. Really, they're not the best pass rush team. I feel like Brian Burns just carries that group by quite a bit, and they're allowing a lot of pressure. So I'm trying to figure out. Usually I can tell, the Buccaneers had a really good blitz game plan while having edge rush. They focus on the edge rush guys, Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett, and then they bring the blitz. They got Devin White's pretty good blitzing off-the-ball linebacker. So that one's kind of understandable, but trying to peg it here, I don't know what the problem was, really. It's hard to figure out. Usually I can figure it out. It's hard to figure out what the problem was against the Panthers. Is something like that going to pop up in the playoffs, against the better teams? So that's kind of something new, that you kind of wonder. But I think they could have put the game away, not made it as interesting. I wish they didn't get the way they got conservative was kind of odd. I suppose I wish they would mix a little more runs or maybe some deep shots. They're so successful on the deep shots, but he had no time, I guess, which is crazy. So trying to figure out what went wrong there. Teddy has not been playing good. The Panthers could have won this game. They play a little better. Teddy plays a little better. They don't fumble at the half-yard line. Pass rush. It feels like the offense and defense is just never on the same page. You're going to have one or the other. So that's kind of tough, for the Panthers. A lot of teams are like that. But the Packers got out of there with the win, having to play on Saturday. You never know what's going to happen. Now they got a huge game against Tennessee Titans Sunday night in Lambeau again here. So really looking forward to that. That should be a really good game there for them. Moving on to Sunday, this was a wild game. Another choke for the Falcons. The Falcons were destroying the Buccaneers. I'm like, man, this Buccaneers. I think all of us keep thinking, all right, the Buccaneers are going to turn around this week. They got the win against the Vikings last week. It was mainly because of defense. Their offense going to figure it out. More than just one big play a game, couple big plays, and they can't move the ball at all. The Falcons defense has been heating up, and the Falcons are torching this defense, which I consider a good defense. And they're looking good. Matt Ryan's throwing all over them. But then you kind of just knew they were going to blow the comeback. The Buccaneers kind of get a burst of offense going. They're getting Antonio Brown in. Godwin finally gets a touchdown there. Leonard Fournette's even running the ball well. So that is a good performance in the offense, not to start, and it could be one of those things that kind of turns things around. Now they're going to get going. Now they got the momentum. I think we kind of keep thinking that, but if there was a game to make you think that, it'd be this one. But yeah, Brady got going there. I don't know what was going on early. Matt Ryan was feeling it early, but he had a lot of touchdowns left off in the field. Throwing the ball too late, kind of going through the motions way slower than he used to. You can kind of see he's aging. So even though he had a productive game and he had some really good balls, some really good moments, he could have done a little more. He was kind of I think Carlton Davis, was it Carlton Davis? Yeah, I think he saved a touchdown. That should have been a free touchdown, and then Winfield got one as well. Those should have been touchdowns, if Matt Ryan just gets the ball out much, much sooner. So that's something that's been popping up for him. They couldn't get the run game going, the Falcons, but if you kind of look back, they didn't really try to get the run game going. And it's just the Falcons are going to kind of just choke no matter what, because, if they would have had that lead and they kind of would have just went fully to the run game, got conservative, and then they would have lost the comeback. If they would have blown the comeback with that, it would have been because that, but they didn't go to the run game at all. So they kind of go from one extreme to another. Mix it in a little bit, mix it in just because Gurley, what was he, 1 for negative something? Just because some of the, Ito Smith was actually pretty effective in a small amount of carries. I don't expect them to go full conservative just because they're up, but you got to mix some run plays in there, So I think that was actually a big problem. Some plays left off the field for Matt Ryan. Defense kind of just fell apart, but yeah, the Buccaneers is playing some good offense, mainly what it was during that comeback. So maybe that'll spark some momentum there. Devin White really got going on blitzes in this game. We see when they really utilize him as a blitzer, good things happen. So I think more of that to come, especially in the playoffs. This would have been bad if they lost this game, for the Buccaneers, because the Bears are winning. I know the Bears get the tiebreaker on them if they were to catch them. So it ended up being huge that they won this game, but pretty wild. Maybe that really boosts more momentum for them. Felt like they got a boost at the end of the Chiefs game, but then they had a bye week. That was kind of a bad time for a bye week. The Vikings game I didn't really, they won the game, so that was good. But I didn't really get that, feeling where that's going to get them going, really boost them. I think a game like this could do that. We'll see. We will see. They'll play the Falcons again in a couple weeks, actually, last week. Niners and Cowboys. Niners give up 41 points to the Cowboys. Zeke is out, and Tony Pollard proves that he's a better back. I've been saying it since like about week 4. He didn't have enough carries. He's the lone guy kind of, and he didn't even have enough carries. And he's got these explosive runs that he always has when he gets limited carries. So if Zeke would have played, Pollard really would have had like no carries. So that would have been bad. But the Cowboys defense, still not. It's better than what it was. We kind of consider it one of the worst, maybe the worst in football at one point. They're making plays. DeMarcus Lawrence, he's been fantastic recently. And looking at last year, looking at early this year, I just couldn't believe how disappointing he was with this contract, and they really need him to step up. It was extremely disappointing, but now he is really playing well. A lot of these guys, picking up and getting these. They got two turnovers early, which end up being the deciding factor. The Niners really couldn't stop the Cowboys' offense, either way. And I expect them to get a little more pressure, the Niners, because if you get more pressure on Dalton, not going to put up 41 points, not even close. So that was the main keys there. Just Mullins turned the ball over. They fumbled a punt early in the game. That was kind of costly. I felt like the Cowboys dominated this game even more because the Niners got a Hail Mary to Kendrick Bourne at the end, which was a great grab. I like Kendrick Bourne. I think he could. They are trying to involve him, but I think he's a pretty underrated player. Mullins does have those moments, though, where like, okay, there's that ball, and you kind of give, good ball to Jordan Reed for a touchdown, but too many mistakes. Niners fans are starting to get their hopes up that they were going to the playoffs, and this was kind of the dagger right there. So that's tough. Cowboys still alive in the NFC East. That's a big win. Getting 41 points, defense making those plays. That's pretty good for maybe to give them a boost as well. So huge win for them. I was a little surprised by that. Well, I knew the Cowboys had a shot, but I was a little surprised. But those turnovers early kind of hurt them quite a bit. Stafford ends up playing. We think this is gonna be a blowout win for the Titans because no Stafford. Stafford ends up playing, so you think Lions got a shot here, but it ends up being a blowout win for the Titans, and it's because they actually do statistically now, but the Titans have the best offensive football right now. When it's all said and done, it could be the Chiefs, but Titans have the best offensive football, and I think the main reason here is because the combination of run and pass game. Does anybody have that besides but does anybody have the Titans combination of run pass game? And the answer might be no there. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. Their defense last year was good and it was getting really good. If they had that defense, that's I got a big positive of the Titans. I got a big negative. That positive is I do think they have the best offensive football right now. People will disagree but that's because you think when it's all said and done, it's gonna be the Chiefs, and that could be that's valid. But I'm not saying that, and it could be the Titans as well. Titans, very impressive offense. The combination of run, pass game, historic. It's historically good. But then the defense, the pass rush, and that was the problem in the Chiefs game. They just could in the AFC Championship. They just could not get pressure. It is even worse this year. It is so bad. Where Stafford take a 3-step drop and just stand in one spot, not even like shuffle his feet around, get some movement in the pocket. He would actually just stay stationary, which is rare as can be. Like, just stay there in one spot. And people kind of go nuts when a guy is able to move around the pocket, shuffle his feet a little bit, and be there forever. Rodgers does it sometimes, and late he'll get out. But Stafford literally stood without moving his feet in one spot so many times. So that is a problem. Pass rush, one of the most important things in football. That's a problem, but it's a big win still. Byard made a play on defense. He's starting to come back to life, where he was looking like one of the better safeties in football, but been a little disappointing. I know, tough when you got to cover all day. They get a Dory Jackson back, so there's some hope there, but the offense is special, and they went 46-25 because of that. It was a little bit of a scare, and the Lions got a safety, actually, and then they went down there and scored, and it's like, okay, well, here comes the Lions. They're in this game. Their offense is going to get going. I was surprised the Titans held Hawkinson in check. They forced a fumble on him. I thought he would have a big game. He did nothing, really, and he fumbled on top of it. So that was a big moment in the game. This Titans offense is something, though, and they'll take care of business. Stafford ended up coming out, probably for the best there. In the Lions, we'll just look for the future. But the Titans looking like the best offense in football. They got the Packers Sunday Night Football in the freezing cold. That's the way Aaron Rodgers likes it. That might be the way Derrick Henry likes it as well. I can't wait for that game. It feels like a game of the year type of game. We'll see if it ends up being. Next, Texans Colts. Oh, man, I think the deja vu, the same thing as last time. A few weeks ago, the Colts-Texans. The Texans had a shot to win. This time they have a shot to tie it, and they fumble inside the 5, I think well inside the 5-yard line. Darius Leonard ends up popping that loose, but Colts have had some luck on their side. They've had some luck on their side looking at the Packers game, looking at both the Texans game specifically. In a game like, and I was getting hyped, and I still am hyped in the Colts. They're getting more offense together. Their defense makes plays at the right time. It's a good, formula to have. That statement went against the Raiders, so I'm higher on the Colts since that. But they got to take care of business in games like this. They can't really rely on the luck, especially going to the playoffs. That luck could run out when you're playing those big dogs. So that's kind of the only knock here I have. But other than, you got to put the game like this game away. You come out, you're up 14-0. I'm like, okay, here the Colts. Colts are good. They're real good. They're gonna come out and dominate this game. They're not letting Deshaun Watson do anything here, and they're scoring easily. I don't know what happened then. I'm not really sure the explanation on offense for the Colts, why they kind of had a little stall there for a little bit. I think it did happen the last time I played the Texans, but kind of odd. The Bears were able to torch them, but I guess you can't compare game to game each week from different teams. You definitely can't, but still, I expect them to dominate that, put that away. But Deshaun Watson got going. That's what we've seen teams. Love the Colts defense to make plays at the right time, but they're not anywhere. They're not really a lockdown defense anymore. Earlier in the year, they were that lockdown. They're not going to give you these yards. Teams are starting to figure out, how to throw on them a bit. So I think that's what happened. Deshaun Watson got going. They didn't need to run game. The Colts are only playing against the pass, and he's still able to kind of, without guys like Will Fuller, able to pass on them, throw downfield on them, get some things going. So I think that's what the main thing that had it, happen. The Texans had the ball for a long time, so I think that was what was going on. The Texans had a legit shot at the end, but then the fumble. So I wish the Colts, they're dominant early. Wish they would continue that. Finish this game out. Not let a team like this stick around, because if this happens, in the playoffs, you're not going to get a fumble inside the 5-yard line, against some of these other teams in the AFC. So more like the team that played the Raiders, more like that team to show up a bit more there. But the Colts got to promise. They definitely look like a playoff team there. They got the Steelers next week. That's going to be a good one. Patriots Dolphins. The Patriots had this one. They had the right game plan for this one, as I expected. The Dolphins had 0 points in the first half. They had a good play on Tua to pick him off. I mean, it was a great play for them. Tua shouldn't have thrown that ball. And the Patriots, they weren't moving the ball too much. They were doing it enough. The defense was doing their part, kind of as expected. In the second half, just so many things happened for the Patriots that kind of cost them there. They had a turnover at midfield. Stephon Gilmore got hurt, and the Dolphins were able to produce a little more because of that. Then Jacoby Myers had a catch at midfield, and he was going outside, and this would have been a walk-in touchdown if he stayed outside. He cut back inside into contact. Very strange thinking there. And that could have been the Patriots' only touchdown in the game. So there's quite a few things that build up, which I think the Patriots probably could have won this game there. But the Dolphins, really stepped up second half. The adjustments, Tua got going. They kind of figured out, credit to the coaching staff in second half, where could we go? What's going to be successful? Tua was able to run as well into the end zone. It was twice there. So they got going. They managed the ball well. Defense clutched up, made some plays when they needed to, and they pulled it off. This is a tough match for them, because you knew the Patriots were going to have them matched up. Well, and they did. The Patriots, I think the game was a lot closer. A 10-point game. It finished. It was a lot closer than that. The Patriots realistically could have won the game. There's a few things there, but so that's a good win for the Dolphins, because the Patriots had the right game plan for them So that's a good win. They keep starting slow in the first half offensively. I know the Patriots got the right, game plan, the right defense for this matchup, but I wish they would start off a little better there. I know they were in the red zone early in that game, and the interception, so they could have scored points there. But they got a big game against the Raiders next week. That won't be the Patriots defense, so they better be able to score. Put a full game together. And we need a complete game now for the Dolphins. It's a must-win game, obviously. So I'm excited for that one. Patriots are out of the playoffs, so not much left for them. It's just kind of weird to see, even though it's not that surprising. I didn't have them in the playoffs, but it's a bit surprising. So they'll begin their search for a new quarterback at the end of the year, probably. They'll get some guys back who opted out, so that'll help them kind of by default there. Bears, Vikings. The Bears continue to produce on offense, 33 points. And the Bears got like a scheme change at this point of the season. And hear me out. Yeah, listen to me through the end. But it reminds me of – people are going to take this the wrong way right away. It reminds me of the Eagles Super Bowl year. Nick Foles comes in. Nick Foles happens to be on the Bears. He's not playing quarterback right now. Just a coincidence there. But Eagles, the year they won the Super Bowl, at the end of the year, Nick Foles came in because Carson Wentz got hurt. It almost felt like a whole different scheme. They're introducing the RPO more. In teams, the Vikings, coincidence that they happen to be in this game, had an historic defense that year, and they didn't know what to do because there was no tape. There was no game plan. And that's exactly what the Bears got going right now. They didn't run play action before. They're running a lot more play action. Teams are game planning for the Bears, and these really weren't the Bears for most of the season. So they can't really figure it out. It isn't really the same as the Eagles, though, so that's why I wanted to get to. It is in that way. Eagles just had a much better team, much more complete team, and they were actually doing it to really good defense. The Bears had a stretch of playing some of the worst defense football. The Vikings basically had a practice squad defense out there, but the Bears are a game plan problem right now because teams don't know what to expect. 2 weeks left. They could make the playoffs. I do think teams will probably adjust. They'll more sample sizes, more tape, and they'll try to figure out how to stop it. Another big thing is receivers are getting, that's a huge difference. Receivers could not get separation before. I think it was just the scheme of the offenses. They just relied on playing man coverage. And now, a lot of rollouts and the receivers coming across the field, and they're able to get more separation. So Trubisky's, he's hitting his guys, but he's throwing to pretty wide open guys the last couple weeks. He did have, there was a bad moment at the end for him. A field goal there would have done it. They got a field goal after that, and if they would have kicked the field, it would have been a 9-point game. The Vikings would have been on a reach. But, it was kind of it felt like the one play he threw into tight coverage, and it was a bad one, interception. So, they are scheming some things up, and if that can continue to work, they play the Jags this week, so it should continue to work. That can continue to make him, make his job a lot easier. There, Montgomery's getting going. He once again, he's been a big part of that. Eric Kendricks can ask for about any amount of money that he wants at this point because him out of the game, you can see the difference, and they already have, they had Hardy Nickerson Jr. in there. It's just not. This was the worst defense the Vikings in this single game. This was the worst defense the Vikings have put out on the field in Zimmer era by far. It might even go further than that. So it's kind of sad to see, but it also kind of tells you that there's a lot of teams like that. There's a lot of teams that are missing some guys, and you got to find a way. So it's really not an excuse. Zimmer, I still consider him a defensive genius. Really, got to find a way. So. It's definitely not an excuse, but in my point here, the Vikings, I guess, can look forward to next year, getting a lot of guys back and having an off season. Can they do much though? But because how many guys they had? They had like 2 starters out there. Some of these corners will be starters going forward, but so I guess even though that's a negative, it's kind of some hope for the future because we're going to see their actual defense hopefully out there next year. The Bears are kind of a game plan nightmare right now. That's what I said. So that they got that going for them right now. It's a good thing. Like I compared them to the Eagles. So teams got to gather up the tape. In games like this. Vikings offense actually looked good. To credit the Vikings once here, offense looked pretty good. Credit the the Bears defense. You expect more. You expect them to get not give up that many yards, many points maybe. But I do have to credit them in the red zone. The Vikings are one of the best red zone offenses in football. It was 1 for a while. I think it went down to 4 after last week. but that's still very good. They were 1 for most of the year. And the Bears were clutching up and forcing the Vikings to take field goals. Luckily, Dan Bailey actually made them. So that was huge. That was actually huge in this game because the Vikings score on those like they usually do. They win the game. They win the game there. So that was huge. So you do have to credit, even though most people probably ignore that, you do have to credit the Bears' red zone goal line defense there for sure. Yeah, I think the big thing is the scheme change. I think the last time I played the Vikings, Laser just took over, so they really weren't able to put things in place. So now you get to see, the scheme's working out. It's good. It's a game plan factor. That's my number one takeaway. Number 2 is the receivers are getting open. That's probably something to do with the scheme. Receivers were not getting separation before. They're getting open now, and it just makes the quarterback's job, no matter who it is, a lot easier. And David Montgomery getting some yards makes it easier. Here. So the Bears putting up points. Good to see. They're fighting for the playoffs. Continue with the play action. I like the play action. Play action's back. Kirk Cousins playing well with it. Baker Mayfield dominating with it. Other teams do it quite a bit. Obviously, it's successful. Seahawks Washington. Seahawks look like they were dominating this game. How about that camera? That's my takeaway from this game. How about that camera when the close-up camera? I don't know what that was. I've never seen that in the NFL. That was the nicest camera. That thing had to be insane amount of money. But that thing was very cool, and it's for like a small part of the game, but that was very cool. It's random thought that I noticed. But yeah, Seahawks were dominating this game, and I'm trying to figure out what happened. I'm trying to figure out why did they slow down? How did Washington come back? Usually you can figure it out, but I wish Carlos Hyde got more carries because what do you have, 2 carries, and that run was beautiful. It was a great run. And I wish he would have got more carries. I wish maybe they would have ran the ball a little more. I'm trying to figure it out. Like, did they get conservative? No, not in a bad way because they were running well. I know Russ ended up having an interception. That was tipped around a bit if I remember. I don't know. Usually you can figure it out. Like we talk about the Packers, why they slow up. They're just throwing these passes for no gain. The Panthers were figuring it out. The Falcons weren't running the ball enough. They were only passing. And I can't really put a finger on it for the Seahawks here. I don't really know why they started slowing down. I guess that interception. Washington was holding the ball for a long time, I guess. But that they were able to put up 15 points, or they had 3 before that. Was 12 points. Even wasting that time and holding the ball for a long time. So I'm not really sure what happened, but yeah, Dwayne Haskins started very slow. So maybe if they had Alex Smith, he doesn't really do a whole bunch either. But maybe if they had him, they would have started off a little more, a little better. And they could have came back and won because of that, or they could have been in the game. Who knows? The Seahawks defense is playing pretty well, throughout this game, mainly early. They were getting pressure. They were still getting pressure late, even when Washington had a shot, so that was key for them. They were actually able to get consistent pressure, which has been a problem most of the year. So I thought that was key. They made the big plays that they needed to, though. Kind of like we predicted, the physical guys were going to show up and make the big plays that they needed to, and that kind of happened early on there, and that's what kind of got them that lead. They got the Rams this week. The Rams next? No, they're not. But Rams and Seahawks will play this week, so that should be a pretty big game. Jags, Ravens, I don't have much on this one. The Ravens dominated this game. They started with a bad Lamar interception, and they still score 40 points, dominate this game. It's not something that usually could happen. Jaguars aren't too good, but the Ravens are good enough to able to overcome that. They were getting J.K. Dobbins going. Wish they could have got him going a little more. You see how much they value him, though, because I kind of thought in this game they were going to get up like this, and then Dobbins was going to, and he played well. I thought he'd be a key piece, and he was, but I thought they would get up like this, and they would kind of just keep feeding him, and he would kind of go a little wild, but that shows how much they value him because they kind of took him out because they value him as maybe their number one piece there, even though they split with quite a few guys. But yeah, Lamar was getting going then, and I don't have much on this game. Minshew didn't play all that great. The Ravens were getting some pressure. Judon Ngakoue had 2 sacks, so that was good. They were getting good pressures. Just things you expect in this game, but 40 points, no matter who it is, pretty good. Pretty good look there for them. So they played great on both sides of the ball. Jaguars now, because of the Jets, are now locked in to that. And we'll have a mock draft today. That's why I want to get going on this one to get that out because that's a lot of work as well. The Jaguars have the number 1 pick right now. And that's huge, given if you watch football on Saturday, what happened with Justin Fields, what happened with Trevor Lawrence, that even though for me it was a big gap, it got even further apart. So that's actually big big win for the Jags. Big loss for the Jags is a win. For that one. And there it is, the Jets and the Rams. I don't know. That's really what I got to say. I don't know what happened. trying to figure out what happened. Why did the Rams lose? And people were, every time the Rams lose, and sometimes it's right, it's like Goff stinks, Goff's holding him back, and, he didn't play good. He did have an interception here. But was that it, though? Like, that's really, I don't know if that's really why they lost. The Jets just played better than them in this game. They played better. And I'll tell you what it was mainly, the trenches, which is crazy on both sides of the ball. The Jets' offensive line is getting better by each week by the game. Mekhi Becton's legit. You see why I was high on him. I think he's even better than I thought he would be right off the bat. And then that's against the Rams' defensive line as well. Coach defense is very good defense. And then the opposite side, the Rams the offensive line kind of look like how it is on paper, especially without Whitworth. Guys like Quinn Williams, these guys were having a day there. They were just kind of crashing, getting off blocks. And they weren't getting crazy pressure on Goff, but if you look at it, Akers was pretty effective, but they had to come back. They were trying to come back, so I think that blocked punt was big. Goff interception was around there as well. So if one of those didn't happen, or if definitely both of those didn't happen, the Rams wouldn't have had to dig themselves to the hole. They could have used Akers more, and they possibly could have won the game. But the Jets played hard. Those players played hard. Bryce Hall had that pick. They outplayed him in this game. Going to the end of the game, though, the Rams had a legit shot. I thought they were going to pull it off. 3rd and 4, they take a shot, and you kind of question that a little bit. Just get the first down, but you try to catch them off guard, I suppose. 4th and 4, they take a shot. 2 shots in a row, downfield. Basically the same thing, opposite side of the field. Try to go to Everett. Low percentage, real low percentage, and they didn't get the ball back. Defense, you would think the Rams' defense, arguably the best in football, would be able to step up there and get the ball back. But though I hated those. 3rd and 4 shot, 4th and 4 shot. You always wonder in those situations, what was the actual play call? Was it a one-guy type of play, one-read type of play? Something we really don't know. That is questionable. You see the frustration. McVay looked like he was super upset about it. Aaron Donald, yes, very much. They got a big game against the Seahawks this week. They are the Rams. That's embarrassing, probably. Rams fans probably hiding under their covers today. It's probably what I would be doing. That's tough, and Jets fans can't be too happy, too, because, again, looking at fresh off what just only the Jets would do that. Fields is and you don't want to base too much on one game, but what happened in that game, I don't want to give a college recap right now, but they had basically had to take the ball out of Fields' hands to win the game. If they kept it in his hands, they lose the game against Northwestern of all teams. Pretty good defense, but you get my point. That is not a good look. And then Trevor Lawrence dominating very good Notre Dame team, very good Notre Dame defense. The gap, like I said, the gap for me was already here. Now I can't even reach that far, and the Jets go ahead and pull off a win at that week. It's kind of unfortunate, but that's promising for the future. Darnold didn't turn the ball over. He fumbled once, got the ball back, didn't turn the ball over. They win. So some promising things for the future. Eagles-Cardinals, a really good game. It looked like it was a dominating game from the Cardinals early on. If the Eagles didn't start that sloppy, Derek Barnett had a bad flag. Those are some sloppy things. They fumbled the ball at one point there. Sloppy game. If they didn't start like that, they probably would have won this game. And I can say that back and forth. That's a weird game. Kyler Murray doesn't throw maybe the worst interception on the year, one of them at least. They probably win this game a lot more comfortably. That was a bad. And Murray still. What did he throw for 400 something yards? Still overall a good game, but one play like that kind of hurts a little bit. I think he screamed no right when he threw it. If that was him, I believe it was right when he threw it. But man, there wasn't a Cardinal in sight. That was a bad one. And if they would have lost, I kind of want to look back to that. But other than that, good game. But like that, you can't let that happen. In a game like this, when you're fighting for the playoffs, and if you get to the playoffs, that can't happen once. Can't happen once there. So so you can go back and forth. Eagles, they didn't start so sloppy. I think they could have won the game if Kyler Murray didn't throw that interception right there. They would have been a little more comfortable. They easily would have won the game. I know they did win the game. But then the touchdowns that Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins had. Crazy catches. If both those, one or both those don't happen, what happens then in this game? So there's a lot of things like that. If Goddard catches the ball, and if he gave some effort on a Hail Mary, then maybe the Eagles could have tied it up. So there was a lot of close plays like that that could have changed the game. But yeah, the Eagles starting slow, concern me. I just wish they put Hurts in a long time ago. That could have helped in a game like this, but he played great. He looks good. I wasn't a huge fan of him out of Oklahoma. A lot of people weren't because he wasn't that successful at Bama. I mean, he kind of was still. That wasn't for me. It was more at Oklahoma. He looked kind of spazzy at times, running in circles, and he was a big play guy and made some great plays, and obviously second-round pick for a reason. But he looks so much more calm, so much more relaxed, poised. I love to see it. Just a year later, just a turnaround, just fantastic. I like Hurts. I like what I'm seeing here. So they had an opportunity, but he did his part. He played a great game, I thought. They're getting Miles Sanders going. Receivers are making catches, tight catches besides the Goddard one. Now with Hurts in there, I'm surprised the Eagles' defense gave up 33 points. To be honest, I thought the defense played a little better. They did clutch up at some times. Murray was able to run on them, throw on them. He statistically had a really good game. The Cardinals' pass rush continues to play well. Hassan Reddick, Gardeck looks really good. I'm not a fan of his celebration. I don't know what that is. It's kind of funny, but he's been fantastic. He had I think it was the second sack of the game was that, when the Eagles were knocking on the door, they were late, and the next play, it was a second down. He got the initial hurry or QB hit to force the sack. Those were huge. That forced the Eagles to kind of take some wild shots there, which they had to, and they almost scored on. There. So those are some huge plays. So those guys can, imagine if they had Chandler Jones here. Imagine if they had them. But like I mentioned, your Kyler Murray made some big plays. DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, they had some crazy catches. That DeAndre Hopkins catch there to barely get in the end zone. That was fantastic. Wild game to the end. Eagles had a shot. I was thinking it was going to go to overtime or possibly, there. So that was a game. That was a ball game there. Eagles, I think the way they are now, what Hurts in there, I really think they're the most talented team in the NFC East. So it's a shame that they dug themselves this hole and that they, it's kind of out of reach. But it's good to see for the future, to see what Jalen Hurts has got. He should beat up the Cowboys this week. But the Cardinals, they're in the driver's seat, control their own destiny. It's a good game for them. Good to see the offense getting 33 points on the board. Defense making plays. Buda Baker stepping up making. Byron Murphy was stepping up making some big plays that kind of go unnoticed. Banjo made a big play at the end, so we got to give those guys credit as well. Chiefs, Saints. The Chiefs continue to win big road games. This is big because they're looking at possibly home field advantage in the playoffs, and they're winning all these games away against really good defensive statement games away. So that's big for them. But there was some slop at times. They were a little sloppy. This offensive line of the Chiefs doesn't feel like the same as last year, which was a big reason that won. Not the biggest maybe, but they won last year. Credit to the Saints pass rush. They've been really good. They got to Hurts. They couldn't sack him though. They sacked Mahomes 4 times. Trey Hendrickson's been fantastic. Very underrated player. Been very good for them. Cam Jordan continues to play good, but he ends up getting ejected. So not the best decision from him in this game. I thought there was one interception in this game. I thought there should have been a lot of interceptions in this game. I thought both quarterbacks could have thrown at least a couple, really. So the defense, trying to make plays there, couldn't come up with it. Usually they make those plays. So that could have changed some things probably. Breeze probably a little maybe could have had more than Mahomes there, but he did have one. He started off a little slow, had to knock the rust off. Receivers, that's the thing here, though. The receivers weren't playing too well. They weren't getting separation. You had some drops there. And given that, and Kamara had some success, I think they could have ran the ball to, I'm losing my voice here. I thought they could have ran the ball to Kamara a little more. They were trying to play keep up. Were they down by that much? They could have ran the ball to Kamara a little more, even just gotten the ball a little more because it was working. But given what the receivers weren't playing the best game, and then they start getting going. They start getting the ball downfield. They start making some plays. But the Chiefs are just that's the crazy thing, though. The Saints played a good defensive. It's weird. The Saints played a pretty good defensive game against the best team in football, perhaps. The Chiefs still scored 32 points. 32. So I don't know what to make of that. Chiefs might be a little more vulnerable. When you look at the offensive line, defenses can do something, but they still scored 32 points. It's absolutely wild. It kind of reminds me of the Dolphins game. They scored, they turned the ball over 4 times, but they still just dominated that game. They scored 30-something points there. So it's wild. It's the only team right now that could do that stuff. Just shows how good they are, but there's some things to clean up. Edwards-Helaire gets hurt, doesn't end up being as bad. as we thought, but we'll at least miss the regular season still, so that's still kind of bad. He, even though he hasn't been super productive, he does kind of help spread the field because you worry about him catching the ball because he's a really good receiving back. He's a dangerous guy in the open field, so kind of the factor of him being in there. So that hurts a little bit. The Saints got a safety that should have been a touchdown. That would have been huge. They should have fell on that. They kind of did, but they lost it. That would have been big. But I talked about on Twitter, sometimes safeties can end up being better than touchdowns because you get the ball back and you could potentially score. It's like if you score, it's 9 points, obviously. But it was, they had a chance for a kick return. They actually, or the punt return after the safety, and he actually returned it pretty far but didn't score. But they didn't get the chance to play offense. So that was not a dagger, but that was that hurt. That hurt Saints bit. If they score a touchdown there, who knows? So Saints, I guess credit to them too because they ended up scoring 29 points this game when the offense started slow, and I figured it'd be slow. Drew Brees trying to knock the rust off, come back from pretty gruesome, not gruesome, but bad injury. I think gruesome more of like a knee tear, but it's pretty gruesome. It's pretty bad injury that guys would not be able to play. In the season. Still got to feel it, obviously. Somebody said they still feel it. They're retired. I forget who it was. Somebody retired, so they still feel that, that type of injury today. So I figured you have to knock some rust off, but it starts off pretty sloppy. Interception 0 for 6 to start, 7, somewhere around there. They still scored 29 points. So that's some promise there for their offense, which they need to add on top of their good defense there. So, but the Chiefs, 32 points away against the NFC contender. Pretty good. Browns and Giants, the last game here. Kind of a weird game because the Giants moved the ball well enough to score a lot more than 6 points. A lot more than 6 points. They moved the ball to midfield or pass like it felt like almost every time. Like how they only score 6 points this game? I guess the way you started, stupid call early on. Right, it was the first drive. If you're gonna go for it, go for it. You're going to put your punter in to throw the ball to a bunch of less athletic guys than your offensive guys. Don't like the call. And they go for it, get stopped. Was it the next time or 2 trips later? That they moved the ball to score more than 6 points. Credit to the Browns defense stepping up in the red zone. They made plays there. But they weren't so hot when the Giants, when they're in their own territory. They got the midfield no problem with shots or running the ball. So they should have scored more points in this game. That actually could have been more of a game, but ended up being kind of a boring game. But if the Giants would have contested the Browns a little more, I think the Browns could have scored more points perhaps. They were just running the ball, running the clock. That's their identity. It's what they were doing. They were doing it well. When Baker threw it, he threw it well. Jarvis Landry, Hooper scored a touchdown. Higgins looked pretty good as well. They just did their part there. So, on the score, defense looks pretty good. Do have to give them credit in the red zone. But the Giants did move the ball a little better than that. So that's kind of my takeaway there. But the Browns, they should win this game. They get out there with the win. Pretty good playoff team, it looks like here. So that's really all I got for that one. That's all I got. Sheldon Richardson get hurt at one point towards the end of this game. Yeah, I didn't check in yet. It's something I forgot to do if he's okay because it's a big piece to their team. But the Browns kind of building this up, getting ready for the playoffs. So that's good. Good statement win, 20-6 here. And the Giants play really good defense. That defensive line very solid. And the Browns are still able to be effective. Like I said, then they could have scored more points this game if they needed to. I believe, assumption, I guess. But so that's a good win for the Browns there. That's gonna wrap up the takeaways for Week 15. Only 2 more weeks left, and then we got you covered for the playoffs. Can't wait for that for our playoff videos that we do every year. And then we have you covered in the offseason. We're already starting to get in offseason mode because it's about to be offseason mode for a handful of teams. Majority of the league there. We're going to have a mock draft here. Today's the 21st. I'm trying to push one out today here. Mock draft Monday, I'm hoping. We're going to predict some college games here for the bowl games, college football playoffs. So we got you covered here. So smash that like button, subscribe, turn notifications on me. Much appreciate it. Make sure you follow that Twitter. It's a must follow there. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.